Okay. My name is Jeff Rosiak. I work with Gamble Design Collaborative. We're working on behalf of the property developer, Madison Capital. Ross Rabin, who I don't see on the meeting, is supposed to join us at some point. So he may be available at some point also. I'm going to give a brief presentation, probably 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then we'll have a period of time for questions after the meeting. If you don't mind just holding questions until after we go through a few slides here. Um, the This project is a requested development plan, which requires a neighborhood meeting. So that's this meeting tonight, and this meeting is recorded and will be available on the City of Franklin's website if you wanted to view it again or share with neighbors or friends. Um, I am just now adding a few people into the meeting, so if you see me pause during the meeting, I may be letting some more folks in. We did have a few more folks registered to attend, so there may be a few more folks coming in as we get started. I'm just going to go ahead and mute everybody for the moment, and at the end of the meeting, if y'all have questions, just feel free to unmute yourself, or I think you can press the space bar to speak through the mute. Um, so so we'll get started. Madison Capital is asking for a development plan and a rezoning for a property at the northwest corner of the I-65 interchange at Goose Creek Bypass. This property is adjacent to Berry Farms, which, as everyone knows, is a very successful mixed-use development. And for context, there is a self-storage facility that has been previously approved and is under construction kind of at the northern end of this site. So the proposed development, if you can see my cursor here, is just to the south of that. This is a continuation of a process that we've started 18 months, close to 2 years ago. The first step in the process was to request an Envision Franklin amendment. The Envision Franklin design concept for this zone, it was and did not change, was regional commerce, which allows for high intensity activity centers, employment centers, revenue generators, and also encourages the project to provide a mix of housing options with vibrant places to live, work, and play. It's also you can see in green down here in the 12-story height overlay zone. So maximum building heights in this zone are 12 stories. When we went through an Envision Franklin amendment, we asked to be allowed for standalone multifamily at this location for a couple of reasons that I'll go through in this presentation. But one of the limitations was instead of 12 stories, that any standalone multifamily would be capped at 6 stories. One of the reasons that the special consideration was approved is this site is kind of at the end of a winding route that ends in a dead end at Old Paytonsville Road that doesn't quite connect to Goose Creek Bypass. So some of those regional commerce uses that we think could have been viable if that connection were made and if this site were a little bit easier to get to didn't really make sense. And that's the reason that we asked for the allowance of standalone multifamily, and one of the reasons that it was approved as such. It also contemplated that this is really part of a bigger mixed-use environment. If you consider its context with Berry Farms, you can see the pattern of development at Berry Farms where commercial uses are located where they have access and proximity to Goose Creek Bypass. The single family residential areas are here further to the north where they're a little bit more removed from that Goose Creek Bypass zone. And then Here in the middle, you've got your kind of larger anchor buildings, the Publix, the standalone multifamily buildings, some of the office users. And those all benefit from this kind of mixed use community where they can walk to Publix and bike to office locations, work locations. Same same principles apply here to this proposed development plan where someone could bike to work in some of the offices or to some of the commercial uses. They can through a quick car ride, they can get to Publix and shop at Publix, and even those car trips would be kind of internally captured without going out onto Goose Creek bypass. Pardon me. This site is part of a pedestrian network that is already established at Berry Farms with walkways and sidewalks and trails that this would be tying into. It's also providing its own links to those trails. You can see that in blue here down in the corner, that sidewalks and trails are proposed to tie into the sidewalk networks at 5 Mile Crossing and along Goose Creek Bypass and through that into the rest of the development. As I said, restaurants and office zones, work zones are in close proximity, so folks could ride or bike to work, and shopping, retail, commercial uses, restaurants are all an easy car ride away as well, with a lot of that traffic internally captured. Here you can see the existing condition of the site. Here's the self-storage building under construction. This is the site and the proposed development area. This was the location of the old Goose Creek Inn and of the sorry, just letting a few folks in, and of a gas station at this location. As part of the self-storage facility, this was contemplated as a parking area and some outdoor storage. So those uses would go away and be replaced by this proposed development. The proposed plan is for a 5-story building that fronts onto Goose Creek Bypass. It has 230 multifamily homes, a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. The plan includes amenities such as co-working space, fitness space, pool area, dog park. It also includes so it ties into the amenities provided at Berry Farms, but provides its own amenities so it doesn't lean on Berry Farms for things like the pool. Sorry, one more folk in here. The fitness rooms, community spaces, and co-working spaces, those are all proposed on the first floor to really kind of activate and provide pedestrian activity along at the ground floor level. And one additional benefit is that the location of the building would screen the self-storage building from some of the views in the area. When it came time to kind of dig into the architectural character of the building, we really took a page from what has been established at Berry Farms, that great character that's already there. What we saw in Berry Farms was a lot of brick, painted brick, hardy siding, balconies that create relief in the facades and add interest to the character, a lot of earth tones and subdued tones. The proposed architecture is early in the design process, but we've started to pull together architectural models to explore the building character and the building massing. You can see that inspiration from some of the architecture at Berry Farms. You can see that the materials are primarily brick and hardy siding, and some of those earth tones and muted tones that will fit with the existing existing architecture at Berry Farms. The building addresses the surrounding street network. So if you can see my cursor here, this is where Old Goose Creek is located, and the building fronts to Old Goose Creek. What we don't see yet is that these units along this ground floor would all have sidewalks out to a sidewalk network here. So these would all be activated pedestrian zones. We also have a kind of an open space area that we'd like to, it'll be for emergency access, but we'll also use it as pedestrian plaza area, park area right here on the corner of Goose Creek to kind of activate that with pedestrian activity as well. On the next slide, you can see kind of looking from the opposite side. So this is down closer to the self-storage facility. And this corner is where the leasing space and fitness area and co-working would be located. This is also where some of the outdoor amenities would be. So this is the pool area where it's kind of closer to the self-storage a little bit, offering it just a little bit more privacy than the other side of the building. So we are early in the development plan process. We anticipate submitting plans to the city this month and next month. And we could be at the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission in March of this year and in BOMA meetings in April through June of this year. So anticipating working through this process over the next 5 or 6 months. With that, I am happy to open the floor to any questions that folks may have.
Hey, Jeff, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, this is Michael Matthias.
Hi, Michael.
Obviously, I guess when you guys plan apartment complexes like this, there's an obvious increase in traffic burden. You've got 230 units, so I would imagine that would roughly be about 460 new cars because you're going to have approximately 2 people per unit at least. Um, How, with that new traffic burden, there would also be probably a decreased quality in water with our struggling Franklin water system now with this many people being added. How does that benefit the surrounding neighborhoods to add this?
Well, I can tell you that traffic impact is one of the really heavily scrutinized aspects of any development plan, any development. We have a traffic study that is in the process of being prepared and working through review with the city of Franklin. That review is also reviewed by a third-party reviewer. So we don't really set the traffic improvements that are required as part of the development. They're developed as part of the review of the traffic impact. So that comes from the city and the third-party reviewer. And then it's kind of up to us to implement those traffic improvements that are needed. I don't have the results of that yet, so I don't know exactly what those are,
I
but
mean,
that
how does that improve the quality of life for the current neighborhoods who are already here, regardless of what traffic implementations are added?
I mean, it would offset the impact of this development.
I mean, I would think any added traffic lights or any added roads or anything would be kind of a band-aid to 460 cars added in this small section.
Yeah, this is part of bigger, a bigger picture of development that's happening in this area. There are,
Right.
um,
I've seen some. I haven't studied all of the Berry Farms type stuff, but I know a lot of the apartment complexes and things have like really great access to Goose Creek bypass. This one obviously does not, and they're going to be going around and going to the 5 Point naturally, And they're going to be going all the way around Old Paintonsville Road and going through all the surrounding neighborhoods because there's no access to Goose Creek right here.
Yeah,
And I would
we
imagine there'd be an issue with the fire type stuff, which I know you guys will do studies with that too, with all the traffic things, but I would imagine that would be a pretty big concern as well.
yeah, we sure do analyze that as well, and that's part of the review process with the city. And as I said, we're just starting that process.
Jeff, this is Jason Deal.
Hi, Jason.
I had a kind of follow-up question on that, kind of related to what Michael mentioned, but I know maybe it was a couple of years ago, Berry Farms was looking to change their PUD and reclassify some of their office space to residential to do some more multifamily type product, kind of like what was built. And I think maybe one of the sticking points there was the additional access over the stream there. Just I guess it would be just east of the Publix. Um, given the amount of trips that your project is going to generate and all that internal traffic, I mean that connection is kind of vital to not only your development but Berry Farms as well. So that really needs to be considered and thought about. I did have a question about the building itself. Are these intended to be for sale or are these apartments? I mean, are you at that point yet?
They're
And
intended to
two,
be, go ahead.
oh, go
Sorry.
ahead. Sorry.
They're intended to be apartments.
Okay. And then it appears that there'll be relatively no surface parking on this property. It'll all be structured parking,
Yeah,
internal,
it's gonna
to the
rely pretty
units.
heavily on structured parking. It does have a bit of on-street parking at the frontage, but it'll primarily be
And
serviced by this is what they call a wrap, a parking wrap. It'll have internal
right.
structured parking access from
Yeah.
both the east and the west.
And given the mix of units that you mentioned, it's 1 and 2 bedroom. I mean, are you confident that you're going to be able to meet the parking requirements that the city requires?
But yeah, we'll have to. We that's part of the review process
Yeah,
is
I just say that because just doing a quick count, you got about 40, 45 spaces there, and then you said you got a 5-story building, and that math just doesn't add up when you do the parking requirements. So that's just what I was kind of interested in
sure,
knowing. So,
sure. The,
but
the
anyways,
the structured parking is multi-story, so but yes, we would meet the requirements or submit a parking study that kind of shows how we meet those requirements as part of this process.
I see. And then in the blurb for this, it kind of mentioned you having a dog park as an amenity,
Yeah, so
possibly.
yeah, possibly. So we haven't figured out all of those amenities yet. This zone down in here is a little bit flexible still. We're talking through making this a little bit more of a plaza space, kind of leaning into pedestrian activity down in this zone. There might be an opportunity for a small dog park kind of related to this zone down here. But we're still working
Yeah.
through a couple of those details.
Yeah, I just mentioned that because I mean you've got 5 Mile Creek right that you're right next to, and my experience with dog parks, the effluent from those are pretty environmentally impactful. So that needs some sensitivity if you're pursuing that.
Appreciate that.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, Jeff, is so in the RC12 zoning, if this were not to be standalone multifamily, it could be, I would say, obviously Old Painesville Road is not conducive to retail just because it is, like you said earlier, it's hard to get to. So the next highest and best use would probably be office. So in theory, a 12-story office building could be built there by right. Is that correct?
In theory, it could. Yeah, it'd still have to meet parking requirements and offset any impacts, but in theory, it could be 12-story office, yes.
Okay, and so that would add even, I would think, even more traffic there than this.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
I think that would be based on the use. I don't know if that's a correct statement. I mean, just taking the daily trips from ITE, I mean, you're talking upwards of over 1,000, 1,200 trips a day from this residential development. So it's not little.
Yeah, and to kind of follow up on her point, like those would be at different peak times than the multifamily use. So it'd be a different analysis, but the impact of 12 stories would obviously be significant.
Yeah, and I can speak, the intersection that you're going to be tying to, what is that, 5 Mile Crossing and Berry Farm. I mean, already in the AM and PM, it's pretty stressed right now. So
Jeff, can you talk a little bit about the Long Lane Extension Bridge or is can we expect it anytime soon?
That might be better asked to some of the staff on the call. I'm not sure if they have any details they can offer on that or not. I don't know the timing of that improvement.
I know it's on the capital projects dashboard, but I would think once we eventually do get that, I think that'll help alleviate a lot of traffic just kind of for the whole area. It'll add a new outlet. So I know I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not holding my breath on it either.
Yeah,
yeah, to that point, 2013, I posed the question to the city engineer about the amount of traffic that's going to introduce onto Old Paintsville Road, and he alluded to about 8,000 cars a day. So right now there might be 500 cars a day. So you can kind of maybe see our concern, people on the west side of 65 with this overpass that's going to be surging traffic down our kind of rural road.
right. I don't think any of us are looking forward to that.
Agreed.
Any other
Plus, it was
questions?
disappointing that the city decided to nix half the project.
Say that again, Jason.
Well, they had a full blown design to take it all the way to Lewisburg Pike, and they decided to cut about half of that out. So now then they're going to be having wide sections narrowing down to a narrow section, the existing section, and then widening back out at about the last couple hundred feet down to Lewisburg Pike.
What other
Doesn't
questions do
seem
y'all
very
have?
efficient.
I think, Jeff, those were my main questions. I mean, I think you really, I mean, the access in and through this property is critical. Given, I mean, if you zoom back out and you look at this compared to the new In-N-Out Burger, it's twice the size of the In-N-Out Burger headquarters. So, I mean, that could give you a good visual reference of what the size massing of this is.
I don't know if I have anything that zooms out quite that far. You can see it over here.
Yeah, yeah. So it's an appreciable size, and it's, just given where it's located on a dead end road next to a storage unit, uh, you know, I would think the residents within the area kind of question just, what we're getting at the end of the day. So
Well, I appreciate the great questions tonight, guys. Anybody else have any questions?
I love the design. I think it looks very, very nice.
Thanks so much.
Real quick, I am Chelsea Randolph with the City of Franklin. I'm actually typing in the chat contact information for The assistant director of the engineering department, Jonathan Marston, he handles capital. He's over capital improvements. So if you have any specific questions, he may be able to be the first point of question, and he may, give you the contact information for people who are over those specific areas of the capital improvements. But I'm gonna put his email address in the chat, and you guys are more than welcome to email him.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, if folks don't have any other questions. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. Appreciate the time and the feedback. And we will, as I said, be continuing through the process over the next several months. There will be some other public meetings along the way, so those will be advertised as those meetings get closer as well.
Thank you all
Hey,
so
Jeff.
much.
One suggestion, maybe put your notification sign a little bit further down from the off ramp. Might be helpful for people to see.
Okay. I'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Is there any way or any possibility that Old Paytonsville Road could ever be, that connection to the bypass could be reestablished?
We really kind of tried to think through that and work through that with staff, and the proximity to the interchange is just well, here's a better view. It's just too close, and
TDOT would not allow that. That's too close to the off ramp.
Yeah,
That's
both
why they closed that in the first place when they realigned the off ramp there.
That's what I figured. I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate everybody's time, and we'll may chat with you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeff.
you. Appreciate it.